Hi, Rod Kane here with the Washington Grand Company. Here to talk to you again about my favorite game, Triumph. Today I just want to do a short video to talk a little bit about basing and some things that you can do with basing to affect the look of your army, kind of why we came up with the basing recommendations that we use in the rules. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit on these figures I have in front of me in the bases and talk a little bit about that. And show you how you can display your armies and play in Triumph, and also discuss some other options for playing the game. So I hope you'll stick with me, and we'll take a quick look at basing. So basing in Triumph. Basing is important in almost most miniatures war games. I would say that some systems will say that they're independent of basing. In Triumph, we use the bases to try and keep the game simple, avoid confusion, help identify troops. So it's kind of significant. So the four types of bases that we use, this is the smallest for the close order infantry. The next one up that's used for the more open order foot. And then we have one that's used both for cavalry and really open order foot. And then this one is used for close order mounted as well as close order foot and things like war wagons and artillery. So it doesn't matter how big your bases are, as long as you keep the proportions or the ratios in place. In the rule book and online in Mesh-Wesh, we recommend 40 millimeter wide for 15 millimeter armies. And that came primarily from the fact that a lot of people have 40 millimeter wide bases from the old systems like WRG, and a lot of other rule systems use this because it's kind of the grandparent to a lot of modern day war game rules. So 40 millimeter, and it's also, there's a physical limitation that you can fit 4 heavy infantry on a 40 millimeter wide. You can't go much smaller than that, and the bigger you make the base, the more playing area that you need. When you had 25 millimeter figures, a lot of people had 60 millimeter wide bases, and there's an ongoing debate about that. With Triumph, we just decided, look, most of us that are painting modern armies today, if you look, the figures went from 15 to 28, almost 30 millimeters high. The bases need to be almost double the size because proportionally the figures are double the size. So it's really hard to get, especially when you start getting into mounted, to get them to fit on the base and not overhang the base. So when I'm looking at my 2 Javelin cavalry, yeah, there's room to squeeze more horses on there, but what's nice about this is the horses are inside the base. I don't have to worry about their noses sticking out. Same thing for the knights here. So it's really important that the figures fit on the base, and you can move them and put them into combat. Another thing about going from 40 to 80 that I like is people talk about, well, I don't care for games that don't have lots of miniatures showing a really dense or thick unit. Well, in Triumph, if you take your 4 heavy foot, if you have more figures, and you put them all on one base, that can be a maneuver unit in Triumph as well. So there's your close order heavy foot. Same thing applies to your mounted. We'll even use the knights for this. If I take these 4 stands of knights and I put them on one base, I can make that a maneuver unit in Triumph, and of course it looks much denser. So you can reduce the size of the figures and put more per base, same game. It doesn't change how you play the game at all. Now, my personal preference is if I want to crowd the army or crowd the battlefield with more troops, I like to play Grand Triumph, where I actually put more stands out, but I keep them as separate maneuver elements, because it also makes the battle look bigger. It gets more figures on the table, and of course I really enjoy those kind of battles. But you can do the same thing here, and you can also increase the number of size of the armies. So you can always create that crowded battlefield. It doesn't change the way the game plays at all. Another important thing about fitting figures on, this came up on the forum, what do I do about war wagons? Well, war wagons, the way we represent them in Triumph, I usually just model the wagon like that. Sometimes I bother to model the horses But when you're actually deploying them on the game, a war wagon's just deployed like that, and we just assume the horses are available to move it if it's going to move. It doesn't move very fast. So yeah, war wagon's still a problem because most war wagon models don't fit on a typical Triumph base or a lot of game bases without becoming extended. But that's fine for modeling your war wagon. So basing's important. It is important to try and keep those ratios of width and depth correct for your playing the game. But basing shouldn't be a hindrance to how you want to make your battlefield look. If you want to crowd the battlefield with more figures, go down on figure size and go up on base size. But the main reason why we do 4 heavy foot to a stand to make a maneuver element is because the initial thought with Triumph is we want to make it easier for people to get into gaming. So a new player that doesn't have large collections of armies can quickly get set up and play the game, and come to a convention or come to a tournament with their army and play, and they don't have to have collected figures for years like I have, and have a huge collection in order to play the basic game. So I hope that gives a little bit more explanation of why we picked the sizes that we did, and how the figure basing can be adapted to your particular style. And we'll make some more videos. Once again, my name's Rod Kane. The game is called Triumph, and thanks for watching.